Saab 900 1978-93. The Saab 900 is a front-engine, front-wheel drive mid-size car with a longitudinally mounted, 45-degree slanted, inline four-cylinder engine, double wishbone front suspension and beam axle rear suspension. It was originally introduced on May 12, 1978, for the 1979 model year. Sales commenced in the fall of 1978. Like its predecessor the 99, the 900 contained a number of unusual design features that distinguish it from most other cars. First, the B engine, that was installed backwards, with power delivered from the crank at the front of the car. Second, the transmission, technically a transaxle, bolted directly to the bottom of the engine to form the oil pan, albeit with separate oil lubrication. Thus, power from the crank would be delivered out of the engine at the front, then transferred down and back to the transmission below, via a set of chain-driven primary gears. In similar fashion, Minis also had their gearbox mounted directly below the engine. However, the Mini gearbox and engine shared the same oil, whereas the Saab 900 and 99 gearboxes contained a separate sump for engine oil. Refined over several decades of two-digit Saab models, the 900's double wishbone suspension design provided excellent handling and road feel. The rear suspension comprised a typical beam axle design, stabilized with a panhard rod. However, the attachment points between the axle and chassis made up an unusual configuration that, in essence, consists of two Watts linkages at either end of the axle. A lower control arm attaches the axle to the bottom of the vehicle, while an upper link attaches at the top but faces towards the rear, unlike a typical four-link design with both lower and upper links facing forward. Early models did not have sway bars. They began appearing on certain models in 1985, and, in US and possibly other markets, became standard on all trim levels by the late 1980s. The sway bars decreased body roll, but at the expense of some ride comfort and when driven aggressively, increased inside wheel spin. The front and rear bars diameters were unchanged throughout the model's run. The 900 utilized a deeply curved front windshield, providing the best driver visibility, calling attention to the marque's aircraft legacy. Also underscoring their aircraft lineage, the 900's dashboard was curved to enable easy reach of all controls and featured gauges lit up from the front. Saab engineers placed all controls and gauges in the dashboard according to their frequency of use and or importance so that the driver need only divert his gaze from the road for the shortest possible time and by the smallest angle. This is why, for example, the oft-used radio is placed so high in the dashboard. In keeping with the paradigm of its predecessor, the 99 model, the 900 employed a door design unique in automotive manufacturing, with an undercutting sweep to meet the undercarriage, forming a tight, solid unit when the door was closed. This feature also eliminated the stoop in the cabin at the footing of the door, as seen in automobiles of other manufacturers, thereby preventing water and debris from collecting and possibly entering the cabin or initiating corrosion, as well as enabling passengers to enter and exit the cabin without need to step over several inches of ledge. The 900 underwent minor cosmetic design changes for 1987, including restyled front end and bumpers that went from a vertical to a more sloped design. Sheet metal body parts were unchanged. Being a small car factory, for economic reasons, Saab kept the basic undercarriage more or less unchanged throughout the 900's production run. The Saab 900 could be ordered with different options. One highly sought-after option was called the Aero or, as it was known in the U.S. Special Performance Group, SPG. The Aero, SPG incorporated, depending on the market and model year, a body skirt, a sport suspension, 1987 plus, that included shorter, stiffer springs, stiffer shocks, and sway bars, leather seats, premium stereo, and air conditioning. Each of these features could, of course, be ordered independently from Saab's accessories catalog for fitment to standard models. Another desirable UK option at this time was the fitment of very distinctive Minilite alloy wheels. Initially these had the words Minilite and Saab cast in raised lettering, later Saab's had a remarkably similar copy but made by Renault. Power output varied by model year and market, but 900S and 900 turbo models produced from 1985 and onward were fitted with a 16-valve engine, while the basic 900 kept the earlier 8-valve engine. A 1989 Saab 900 SPG owned by Peter Gilbert of Wisconsin, was driven over 1 million miles, before being donated to the Wisconsin Automotive Museum. Peter Gilbert claimed 1 million miles out of the turbocharging unit in addition to the engine itself. Saab gave Mr. Gilbert a Saab 9.5 Aero. The 1979 900 was available in 3 versions of the B engine. The GL had the single-carb 100 PS, 73.5 kilowatts, engine. The GLs had twin carburetors for 108 PS, 79 kilowatts. The EMS and GLE had fuel injection for 118 PS, 87 kilowatts, and the 900 Turbo produced 145 PS, 107 kilowatts. The only bodywork originally available was the 3 or 5-door hatchback style, which was seen as more modern at the time. The EMS was only available with 3 doors while the automatic-equipped GLE was only offered with 5. Saab's model years were generally introduced in August, September of the preceding year. The Turbo had a different grille from the naturally aspirated models, which received a design with a hexagonal central element. For the 1980 model year, all versions received the sleeker turbo-style grille. The 1980 900 also received larger taillights rather than the earlier 99 units, as well as lower, adjustable headrests up front. 1980 was also the first year for a 5-speed gearbox, originally only available in the EMS and the Turbo. The 4-door 900 sedan was introduced in Geneva 1980, as a result of dealer pressure. This introduction corresponded with the phase-out of the old Saab B engine in favor of the lighter Saab H engine. In the early 1980s, most 900s were produced in Trolton. However, coinciding with the production of the 9000, more 900s were produced elsewhere. The Vomit plant in Finland, referenced below under the 900C, also produced regular 900s, a total of 238,898 examples. The plant in Arlöv, now closed, near Malm, also produced some 900s. For 1981 all models except for the GL 3-door received a considerable boost in equipment, as well as broader side trims, larger luggage compartments and fuel tanks. The spare tire was moved to underneath the floor, rather than standing upright in the luggage compartment. The GLE was now only available as a 4-door sedan. A big change for 1982 was the introduction of Saab's Automatic Performance Control, APC, aka Boost Controller. The APC employed a NOx sensor, allowing the engine to use different grades of gasoline without engine damage. Another new feature that year was the introduction of central locking doors, on the GLE and Turbo. The long wheelbase 900 CD was also introduced. Asbestos-free brakes were introduced in 1983, an industry first. The front pads were semi-metallic while the rears were made from silica. The GLE and EMS models gain a new central console, while the decor strips on the bumpers of all models were made wider, necessitating wider trim pieces on the flanks as well. A new luxury package was made available on Turbo cars, while the EMS gained new wheels, a front spoiler, a sunroof, and a sport steering wheel. It was only available as a 3-door hatchback in silver metallic. A new model also appeared during that year in Sweden, the 5-door Glide, which used the fuel-injected engine. Model year 1984 saw the introduction of the 16-valve DOC B202 engine in Europe. With a turbocharger and intercooler, it could produce 175 horsepower/129 kilowatts in the Turbo 16 model, less for catalyst-equipped engines. The Turbo 16 Aero had a body kit allowing the car to reach 210 km per hour, 130 miles per hour. A different grille and 3-spoke steering wheel appeared across all models. The connection between the side strips and the bumpers was changed. EMS and Turbo hatchbacks received a black trim piece between the taillights, and the Glide began replacing the twin carbureted GLs. At the 1983 Frankfurt Motor Show a 2-door sedan was shown, It went on sale in January 1984, initially only as a glit. The two-door sedan was only ever built at the Vauxhall plant in Finland. The dual-carb model, and GL nomenclature, was gone for 1985. Now, the base 900 had the single carburetor engine, while the 900i added fuel injection. Two turbocharged models were offered. The 900 Turbo had the 8-valve engine, while the Turbo 16, also Aero, had the 16-valve intercooled unit. Wheel trims, naturally aspirated cars, and alloys, turbos, were redesigned, and the turbos also received chromed grills. The 8-valve turbo received an intercooler for 1986, bringing up power to 155 PS, 114 kilowatts, while the 16-valve cars had hydraulic engine mounts. The 8-valve turbo was also available as a two-door. Side marker lights at the rear of the front fenders were also added, while the 900i gained new interior fabrics. The new Saab Scania badge was introduced, placed in the steering wheel, on the bonnet, and on the boot lid. 1986 also marked the introduction of the 16-valve 900i 16 and 900 convertible, both only for North America initially.